We're here at WatchBox Studios at Dubai Watch Week, and I am joined today by actor and watch designer Aldis Hodge. Aldis, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, man.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
So I guess the first question that I've been thinking about asking is tell me what, because I know that you also are very much into watchmaking.
Yes, absolutely.
What first got you started down this passion?
I've always been a designer and an artist. Started with architecture at first, but when I was in school for architecture and product design, I knew that I wasn't going to quit acting to spend 8 more years to become an architect, right? So for some reason, I just started designing watches and really became enamored with the practice of it because it encompassed a lot of my loves: architecture, art, and engineering. And that's just kind of where I fell into it at like 19. So been knocking it out ever since.
Have you been collecting for a while now?
Me, acquiring. I call myself. I'll put it like a buddy of mine put it to me yesterday. I'm an acquirer of many things. I started only really purchasing watches because I tend to think that I buy watchmakers or the minds of watchmakers. The watches I have all taught me something, and that's how I learned to design, by looking at watches, studying watches, physically handling them, because I couldn't go to school. Watchmaking school is like 3 years, mandatory, nonstop. As an actor, I can't just say I'm gonna kill 3 years and just go take, you know what I mean? So I just taught myself design, and I taught myself by studying other people's work and machinations. So,
what was the first? What was, I would say, the first piece that you acquired, or that caught your eye that you added to the collection? And I guess, do you still have it?
Yeah, I still do. I mean, well, I'll take it back. The first piece I ever remember getting was like this Mickey Mouse watch that my mom bought me and my brother. I think I was like 5 or 6.
Those have made a comeback, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I should have kept it. I don't know where it's at. But the first piece that I bought for myself that I was like, oh, this is a major piece, was the Montblanc Nicolas Riesek chronograph. And I just liked the composition on that. I studied the dial, studied the quality of it, all these things, the facets, and then from there it kind of went on. George Daniels, Octobi Retro is a retrograde in the jump hours. 8-day tourbillon from Daniel Roth. I have this right here with the it's an Efrons and jump hours. Yeah. Jacques Hérault, black ceramic dial, Grand Seconde, Arnold & Son Golden Wheel. I really dig the work that Sébastien Chaumonté did there. I have a Bulgari Papillon Voyager. Actually, Fabrizio, who I was on a panel with, designed that one.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But
no, it's awesome that you're really into the independents.
I love independents, man.
And so I was thinking, obviously, the independents are really who push the boundary of where watchmaking is going to go.
That's
in terms of both the actual watchmaking and the design.
Yeah.
Is there one specific, I would say, brand or watchmaker that you think is doing all of the right things right now?
Oh, that's a hard question, man. That's a hard question. So, I mean, I have sort of an eternal love for Greubel Forsey. I love what they do. I love the fact the boundaries that they do push and how they push it is fantastic. But there's really some great people in the space. Ludwig Bouillard. If you watch his movements, you can see how his mind works. It's fantastic. François Paul Journe. I think the come-up kid right now is Rajab Rajapi from Akrivia. He's fantastic, and you can see in his work, the chronometer is insane. Genus, insane. I mean, you look at that movement, you're automatically, your mind explodes. It's awesome. But yeah, I mean, my top tier is Greubel Forsey. I love their art piece historique. I love their Balenciaga Contemporain.
Have you had a chance to see the new handcrafted piece?
Oh yeah. I'm friends with the team, so I got a chance to actually go check out the factory and look at some of the machines and see some of the actual pieces as they were being made. Man, it's definitely
special.
a craft.
And I think your normal consumer doesn't fully understand exactly what goes into it, and then also the nuance of difference between, I'd say, being at the level of Greubel Forsey and then something else that's maybe not quite as finished as well or as complicated, but how that last almost 1% of the work takes all of the time.
Yeah, I mean, the handmade one from Gribble Force takes it's 6,000 hours.
6,000 hours.
Right? I have a buddy. His name is Josh Shapiro, who is really fantastic with guillocheting his dials. Right? He actually sold me my guilloche machine and my straight line mill machine. But Josh now has his own line, J and Shapiro watches. He'll work on a dial for a week, and he's doing the practice the way, you know, Roger Smith does it, you know, the way Reggae used to do it, all that.
Where they have to teach themselves how to do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can sit there and work on a dial for a week, 2 weeks at a time, and if you scratch it one time the wrong way,
it's trash.
You've ruined that work. And now you gotta start all the way over. But there's so much complexity that goes into every single element of the watch. You know, polishing a bridge on CNC for like 30 minutes versus polishing a bridge for 2 days, 48 hours by hand. Yeah, so much that goes into it. And you know, that's what I love about independence, is because we get to educate ourselves through the process of their innovations.
Yeah, and so, you know, through that, I think what's really cool is acquirers like yourself that within
acquirers like
you know, have to, you know, keep up, but that, you know, within our industry in the last few years, you start having these like dynamic personalities that have really, you know, really sort of developed within the space, both at, you know, the watchmaking level and also, you know, the acquisition level. And I think that this is being fueled by, you know, social media. You know, more people can engage with brands, more people can engage with collectors of the brands. So do you see social media being a good thing for the watch industry, bad thing for the watch industry, both good and bad? And you know, how, you know, do you think it's sort of affected, you know, maybe what your passion is, or watches that you may not have gone for, but you learn about through that medium?
You know, coming from entertainment, my experience with marketing and media is very nuanced and to a degree particular perception. I think there's always a duality to any marketing tool, and that's exactly what social media is. And you know, it can be good or bad. It can be used to saturate the market and turn the attention of what is good into something different, because now people are looking at this one thing, and this is now the bar, or the barometer rather, set for what people assume is quality. And it may not be the best quality, but this is what everybody thinks. This shiny thing over here, that's what it is. Or it can be used very strategically by brands to show them the process and help people understand the different levels of quality. I think there are some brands out there who are doing it quite well, and some brands who, I wouldn't even say it's the brands, you know, the power then.
Names?
I shall name no names, but I will say that some of that is not even on the brands themselves. Some of that responsibility is taken up by the people who position themselves as the connoisseurs or the experts, you know, who are leading the market makers, who are, you know, leading the trend of the charge and what people's tastes should be. Then it goes to the consumer, who's now putting this out and how they speak about certain things. If you don't have experience in the field to really have a vested and an educated opinion, it becomes a very dangerous sea to swim in, because everybody has an opinion on something, but is it an opinion from experience, or is it an opinion from assumption, right? But again, I think that as long as the brands continue to push their own marketing their own way, and they control their own narrative, they can never go wrong.
And I think that, you know, it's important, you know, saying controlling your own narrative, because traditionally, you know, a lot of the watch brands have sort of been late to the game of both the internet and social media, and that narrative was often decided by other people within the industry.
Other people, the reporters, the reviewers, the consumers, you know, and again, that's not always a bad thing. It's not always a good thing. It's pick and choose.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is tough for some brands to sort of marry the idea of this, you know, this really sort of niche antique interest with all of this new age tech, this new age interest, this new generation, and how do we fuse that together? And for me, what we do as watch designers and watchmakers is always going to be art art at its highest level. And that is always going to be there. People will always have an appreciation and an emotional sort of response to art when it's done well. So, you know.
And I think Cribia is an example of that.
Absolutely.
Where
Absolutely.
when something's done right, everybody can sort of agree, like, that was executed perfectly.
Exactly.
And when you see that amongst even consumers that wouldn't necessarily buy that watch, but they can understand why somebody else is, that's when you know that, I'd say, the horology and the art was done right.
Yeah.
So, as a designer, what is one brand that you would, if you could pick any brand, that you would want to design a watch for?
Yeah, that's tough. One brand I could design a watch for, outside of my own?
Outside of your own?
Grubel Forsey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool to see happen.
Grubel Forsey. Do I get a second choice?
You can have a second choice. You can actually have as many choices as you want.
I think a strong second would be MB&F.
Okay.
Or Jorn. I would say Grubel Forsey.
We're big Jorn people at WatchBox.
All right, yeah, man. He has a very recognizable style. His signature is there. It's a really quite a handsome watch, and it does the job, man. It remains interesting and relevant. So I think it goes Grubel Forsey, MB&F, Jorn.
Awesome. Yeah, I think one of the characteristics amongst all of them is that, or at least with all, watches that have been designed really well, is that you can recognize it from a distance. You can recognize the aesthetic, and that if somebody's 10 feet away from you, you're able to tell what they're wearing, and not that it just sort of blends in. And I think that amongst the best independents, and even brands like a Audemars Piguet or a Patek Philippe, Royal Oak, Nautilus, what it is.
Both of which are Gerald Genta.
Both of which are Gerald Genta.
I would say the Genta effect. Genta has how can I say this? Developed the iconic, That's actually kind of weird. I was a GPHG juried member, and Audemars Piguet actually won the iconic category. I didn't mean to do that on purpose, but I'm just saying it kind of fuses. But Genta has figured out how to develop the iconic style for a lot of these brands with certain collections, with the Royal Oak and with the Nautilus. And that's something I think his contribution to the watch industry is massive. But it's a hard thing to do, and it is one of those things, like in terms of designing a case, I've designed bunches. It's really hard to find something that is truly individual and unique, and when you can spot it from a mile away, such as the case with Daniel Roth. He has a very specific case shape. You spot it from a mile away, man, that solves half your problems right there, because you're talking about indicative recognition.
100%.
Yeah, and APs are probably the strongest representation that we understand of that right now.
Yeah, and when you see something and you're able to know what it is, a lot of watch brands are now sort of in this trap of all of these great designs have come about, and when you're trying to design something new and you're looking for inspiration, if you look too closely to what's already been done and you do it again, they're saying that you're sort of copying that design. Right. But if you stray too far away, the response or feedback that you get is, well, why didn't you do something more like them? So you have to it's that fine balance of doing something unique, but also what people are going to want to buy.
Yeah, that's something where you have to maintain your role as a rogue and a maverick. Set your own tone, because as a designer, it is hard to get. It's hard to really establish who and what you are. A lot of people say you take the safe road because they want you to do this thing that, try to appeal to this and appeal to that. But what you realize when you go back to the basics is that this particular brand appealed because they introduced something new
that nobody wanted.
Exactly, and people now have a new breath of fresh air when it comes to the idea of appreciating this, item, this watch, this, whatever it is. So you have to take the risk, and you always have to be forward thinking. You always have to. My idea, my inspiration for watch design comes from the idea that it's not so much about telling time, it's about how people get to experience telling time. Can I give that to you in a different, nuanced way? So for any designer out there, you always have to challenge norms, challenge the status quo, even if you're working within the same realm of something. That's why I like this one so much. This is, again, F Rounds, and that's RONZON. Designing around a prefabricated movement is tough because it's hard to show your own DNA there, show individuality, but he managed to do it with this piece, and it's insane. I love the fact that it's so individual and unique, and you know, I gotta respect it.
One of the brands that I think did that also very well is Resonance.
Yeah.
And you know, it's
it's
rare that it's rare that a brand can come from the perspective of we want to be really good at design, and we're not going to take as much of a focus on watchmaking, even though we're going to do something cool and unique. But we want to come out with a watch around a pre-existing movement that works really, really well. We know that it's not going to break on us. We know that it's easily fixed anywhere in the world that it might be, but then come out with something that can fit into, you know, any watch collection. And you know, when somebody asks me like, what's something that I'm not thinking about that I should be thinking about within adding a watch to my collection, that's not just going to be your bread and butter piece. You know, actually, that's one of the brands that I sort of mentioned, and you know, I'll add this to the list.
And also, Govberg.
Yes.
I mean, you know, the way that they sort of owned the ideal of the
one of the first independents to really hit it, and you know,
they knocked it out of the park. That's what I love, that the collaboration they did with DWW for the Only Watch. Oh man. I got to see that in person. It's insane.
It's beautiful.
It's insane.
So I'll end it with one more question. What watch would you say is, you know, the next watch, if you can tell us, on your hit list?
The next watch on my hit list is the one I'm developing right now.
Okay.
That's it.
Can you tell us anything about the watch, or we're gonna have to wait and see?
Wait and see a little bit, but I will say I'm in between two models. One is a retrograde, probably sitting somewhere by around 40 to 41 millimeter. And then the other one is jump hours with a very odd asymmetrical case. So jump hours, retrograde, that's what I'm dealing with right now, and that's my focus. And the next watch that I buy is
your watch.
That manufacturing cost for those watches.
Well, when you're done, please send it to us and let us do a wrist review, and you know, talk about the piece we'd love
Y'all
to
better review my stuff nice now. Y'all better be kind. You know
very, very nice.
15 out of 10 is what I'm talking about.
That's what you're gonna get.
Saying. No.
You know, but you know, I don't think is Tim Masso here?
No,
but
no, but I definitely will, man. I'd actually be honored.
Beautiful.
To get your opinion of it.
100%. Well, thank you for coming. And this is WatchBox Studios. We're here with Aldis Hodge, and you know, hope everybody enjoys Dubai Watch Week.
Indeed.